President Trump has amassed a powerful legal team to defend him in the upcoming impeachment trial, and tonight, the fight back begins. Joining me now is one member of that team, special advisor to the president and former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. All right, good evening, Pam. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start before I get into the answer that was filed today, this evening, in fact, of the president in response to the impeachment statement of the House. You've got Adam Schiff, who now is one of the House managers, they call him. I mean, really a prosecutor. I mean, do they do that with a straight face? I mean, this guy lies every time he opens his mouth. I mean, you ran prosecutions in the state of Florida. I mean, isn't it a little bizarre for this guy, who should be a witness to begin with, let alone, you know, recuse himself, to be in charge of this?
Oh, we very well may call him as a witness if we ultimately have witnesses, so don't discount that yet. You know, Janine, remember what he does. He starts off in his opening arguments lying about the phone call with President Zelensky. It was really unreal, just flat out lying about the transcript of that phone call. Then what does he do, Janine? He says he's no idea who the whistleblower is, no contact with the whistleblower. And then what do we find out? His team had been basically coaching the whistleblower, who's not a real whistleblower, of course, by the way.
Yes.
The informant, the leaker. So it's, and now this is the guy who's going to come over and present the case to the United States Senate. The guy who said he had all kinds of crimes, and where are the crimes?
And not only that, he had the evidence on Russia collusion. He had more evidence than Bob Mueller did. I mean, you know, I can't believe they made him a House manager, did it with a straight face. But I really want to talk about this answer of the president, and it is a 7-pager, and I've read it all. And I think that it is fascinating, because it's really it's very clear that it's not only the president's response is that they're trying to change 2016, they're trying to impact 2020, and they don't have a right to do that. But the one that I thought was most interesting, and as a lawyer, obviously, you get it, is that it is factually insufficient on its face, these articles of impeachment, since they don't establish a crime. So how can you actually impeach for a non-crime or something that isn't a violation of the Constitution?
That's exactly right, Janine. You know, they've had this reckless obsession with impeaching President Trump from before he was even sworn into office, and it's continued on and on. And now, as I said earlier, you know, Schiff said they have all these crimes. Absolutely nothing. They have not charged the president with any crime because the president did nothing wrong. There was no crime. The transcript of that phone call speaks for itself. So yes, it's insufficient on its face, on the merits, and yet they're sending this basic trash over to the U.S. Senate. And, you know, Senate's a lot smarter than that, and especially with Adam Schiff presenting, bring it on, because we're ready to go.
Well, and also they say that following the disclosure of the 25th phone call, that the president was transparent, and the allegation that he's obstructing Congress by asserting executive privilege, which is recognition of the separation of powers, is something that every president is entitled to do. So what I was just saying to Senator Mike Rounds earlier was, you know, in any real case where jurisprudence matters, you make a motion to dismiss and end it. But I understand the thinking is you really want to have this heard so that the president can be fully exonerated.
You know, Janine, in the beginning, Judge, you remember the president kept saying he wanted witnesses, he wanted witnesses. If you and I were falsely accused, we would want witnesses too. But now this thing has become so flimsy. There's absolutely nothing there in the articles of impeachment. It's an insult to the American people. It certainly is to the president, that I think now we're ready to just put this behind him so he can continue to do all the great things that Kellyanne spoke about earlier for our country that he's continuing to do. It's so great to watch him work nonstop, despite them trying to derail him and deter him, because it's not going to work. He's a great president, and he's going to keep fighting for the American people for the next 5 years. Well,
in the next 20 seconds, I've got 20 seconds, Pam, what do you think is going to happen in the Senate? Do you think that those senators who are kind of on the edge there, whether it's Romney and Collins, Murkowski, do you you think that they're going to seek to have more witnesses, or do you think that's going to die as Mitch McConnell thinks it will?
You know, Judge, I think that they're going to see, especially after opening arguments, maybe before that, when they see truly the lack of evidence that has been brought to them, I think they're all going to do the right thing, and I think they're ready to get back to work too and do the business of the Senate instead of sitting there every day listening to this trash.
Which is not calling witnesses. Okay, Pam Bondi, so good to see you. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday night.
Thanks.